We'll continue the murder mystery genre of HOPA gaming, but this time with the Roaring 20s vibe, so stay tuned. Hi everyone, this is the HOPA Gamer and welcome to the HOPA Gaming channel. Our featured game today on Throwback Thursday Gaming was released in December 2009 by PlayFirst and Game Brains. The player portrays Valerie Porter, who recently got a job at the Daily Informer as an assistant to its editor-in-chief, Gerald Hart. But Valerie doesn't want to be just stuck in the office with a boring job working for a cranky boss. She feels that she's got what it takes to become a very good journalist. And it seemed that luck took notice of her when Terry Morgan, the newspaper's famous investigative journalist, took her in as an assistant and do interviews with the current town mayor, Ted Sweeney, who is running for a gubernatorial seat, and champion boxer Johnny Jackson on his last fight to defend his title. It would have been a simple job until Valerie answers a phone call from the famous starlet Scarlet, who revealed that she has a secret love child with the mayor. With enough evidence gathered, Valerie ran the story much to Terry's chagrin, who accused Valerie of printing cheap tabloid story that might be libelous and could ruin the newspaper's reputation. Few days later, Valerie arrives at the crime scene in a dingy alley outside the warehouse of United Industries, looking over the body of Scarlet Velour, and wondered if the exposé she printed have led to the starlet's murder. As Valerie investigates further, she found a few people who might have a hand in Scarlet's death. Many of these are prominent figures. Mayor Sweeney, Johnny Jackson, who also happened to be Scarlet's current beau, Jeremy Kaufman, the director whose movie launched her to celebrity status, and who also happens to be her ex, and Victor Laszlo, influential businessman and owner of United Industries, who appears to have some shady connections with the mayor. Somehow, a cabaret performer at the Speakeasy, which Laszlo owns, named Ginger Van de Tramp, aka Tara Summers, is connected to the case. The game mixes hidden object scenes with a variety of mini-games and puzzles that are refreshingly different. In the hidden object scenes, you get given a list to look for, but sometimes only descriptions on what to look for was given, such as enemy of the wrinkles for the flat iron, or foot warmer for sock. Aside from this, in each room, the player should also look for keys, 2 batteries to help charge the hint meter faster, and 5 bells. You'll know that you've collected all the bells when you hear this cue. There are a total of 100 bells hidden in the game, although I must admit that many of them are tricky to find. In some hidden object scenes, one has to turn off the lights to avoid detection, which adds thrill to the game. Don't get caught, or you'll have to start the whole scene all over again. Hog fans who want an extra bit of challenge might want to check the game's optional but unusual combo system. By holding down the mouse button, then moving your cursor from one required item to another creates a chain combo that fills up your hint meter even faster. This snazzy technique is also very useful during the special transit sequences, which takes place while Valerie is traveling in the subway, where the player must find several instances of a specific item, newspapers, scarves, glasses, within 60 seconds. It's a fun spin on the object finding mechanic, and although it's all completely optional, personally, I found it to be very satisfying. The minigames include trying to persuade someone to open up to you to move the narrative, searching and piecing together scraps of paper, word puzzles, looking for keys or pieces of evidence, mixing developer chemicals and developing your own photographs, and reassembling old-school gadgets such as a typewriter, camera, and a projector by following schematics. So if you hate IKEA because they require you to follow assembly instructions of a furniture, oh, fuck. Although the minigames tend to repeat, they're spaced out enough within the 11 chapters of this game to keep them from being too repetitive, and the level of difficulty shifts as the game progresses, enough to keep one on their toes. So, you want to be a journalist in the roaring 20s, At the end of each chapter, as Valerie, the player composes the article by choosing keywords from a list as story sentences taps out on her typewriter. This shouldn't be a problem as long as you are paying attention to the plot, although if you make a mistake, you can reset it. So speedrunning wouldn't be a good idea in this game. Once the story is done, you'll have to complete the headline by filling in the blanks with typesetting blocks. You're given a few letters to start with, but as the story progresses, the headline titles get longer, which requires extra brainstorming. Okay, a mini backstory. The game is set in the 1920s, and at that time, in the US, the constitutional law called the 18th Amendment was in effect, which prohibited the production, sale, and importation of alcoholic substances in an effort to curb alcoholism, crime, and the perceived related violence and antisocial behavior. Spoiler alert, it was a massive failure because not only did it backfire, but it also led to the rise of gangsters such as Al Capone. This was the reason why Victor Laszlo's shady business includes smuggling and selling whiskey, running a speakeasy, and game fixing, and in this instance, Johnny Jackson's final bout. Unfortunately, game fixing in any sport is still very much around, and although there have been measures to minimize it, I doubt that completely stamping it out would be in the near foreseeable future. Another thing, although it was only presented in a subtle way, Teresa Morgan was professionally known as Terry Morgan to conceal her real gender to keep her job as an investigative journalist. This reflects true in the real world where, in the 19th and 20th centuries, many female writers had to resort using male or gender-neutral pseudonyms to get their work published, especially in a male-dominated genre such as science fiction or even straight-up fiction, or in the publisher's perception that being a male writer would reach a wider audience. Which is why writers like Mary Ann Evans became George Eliot, Alice Mary Norton became sci-fi novelist Andre Norton, and even the Bronte sisters Charlotte, Anne, and Emily have to publish their work as Currer, Acton, and Ellis respectively. Okay, analysis time. Skip this if you want to keep the mystery to yourself. Or you can stick around for more scoop. The game is, I think, one, if not the oldest HOPA game that I've ever played and owned. And as with the many old games from this genre, the resolution and hidden object scenes is sometimes a hit and miss. I found that I had to use the hint button in some instances because some items are too darn tricky to see and can be equally tricky to pick up. But then again, you can't call yourself a hog fan without straining your eyes and, every now and then, having an urge to rage quit. The hand-painted animation here is more of a graphic novel, but I guess it counts as a charm of old games, as it's not too demanding on the graphics cards of even the most bog-standard modern PC. Overall, the game's art direction is neatly packaged into an Art Deco-inspired style in keeping with the game's 1920s timeline, from the cursor to the menu and everything in between. It's a shame that the game devs didn't give us any chance to download the background music, not even a mixtape to listen to, as the music further enhanced the game's roaring 20s vibe. Admittedly, one of the weak spots of the game is characterization, presenting Valerie and company as mostly two-dimensional characters, which sometimes border to stereotypical. Although, to be fair, the blending of the characters is superbly done by the story writers. What they lacked in further character depth, the game made it up with maximizing the characters' roles to help establish their story, with such clarity despite a few necessary red herrings and plot twists. To add this, the brilliant work of the voice actors, led by Valerie's voice actress Melissa Hutchinson, who herself is a veteran in lending her voice to game characters, brings the characters and this game to life. But for those who are hearing impaired or those who prefer playing with the sound off, don't feel left out. The developers also added visual clues in scenes where there are audio clues. Speaking of the characters, although she had been slightly dodgy from the start, I still have a degree of respect for Terry Morgan, despite her role as the sort of antithesis to Valerie's truth-digging reporter character. As I said before, like in the real world, Valerie and Terry know that in their timeline, a female eyeing to work as a journalist would have to elbow her way in, even if it means, in Terry's case, siding with the corrupt and shady people, like the mayor and Laszlo. Near the end of the game, Terry was shown as leaving the newspaper. According to Jerry, she decided to leave because she began to worry as more people are dying and that Valerie could be the next. Although I have a hunch that he told her to make a plea bargain with the authorities if she wants to get off lightly from the mess. Although editor Gerald Hart was initially introduced as a stereotypical editorial boss of the game's timeline, cranky, demanding, and a bit of a sexist, somewhere in the middle of the game, he changed his tune and helped Valerie on her case by calling in favors to the chief of police, who also happens to be his friend. Now, why would he do that? I think that despite his shortcomings, Jerry Hart knows how to be fair when it comes to bringing out the truth. He probably knew about Terry's connections with Laszlo and the mayor, but couldn't bring to himself to prove his hunches. So when Valerie showed up and proved herself as a capable investigator, he decided that she was the vehicle he needed to bring such things to light. Despite the somewhat cringe-worthy name pun, Valerie, in my opinion, is still a fun and likable character, despite not having much details about her background before she got the job. She reminds me of the cross between Phryne Fisher and the classic Nancy Drew. Plucky and courageous young woman who's set on digging up the truth while fighting her way through the conventionalities of her time. I have this feeling that PlayFirst would have created another sequel because her character has a lot of potential. Sadly, PlayFirst decided to concentrate more on creating mobile games in 2012, and by doing so, cancelled releasing any further PC or Mac games. The final nail in the coffin was the acquisition of PlayFirst by Glue Mobile in September 2014, further dashing any hope of seeing more of Valerie's next adventures. About Brain Games, I can't seem to find any detail about them, so if there's anyone from this company, feel free to share your side of the story. As of this video, the game is no longer available on Big Fish Games, although it's still available on Steam and other third-party sellers. Initially, when I downloaded and opened the game from Steam, the resolution was made for a smaller screen, but when I reopened it again, another time, it had adjusted to my computer. So it makes me think that it's probably getting some technical support of some sort. I don't know. I'm just happy that I'm able to get hold of it again. So that wraps up our Throwback Thursday gaming. Be sure to be on the lookout when we feature this gameplay. Once again, this is the HOPA Gamer and thanks for watching. Bye!